Hello and welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Josh Shepardson at BChad 50, and we got some big names on the mound tonight. We got some big names at the plate. It's going to be a nice big 15-game slate. So starting off at the top, you got Clayton Kershaw at $14,400. Obviously very expensive, but also very obviously your best pitcher, probably in all of baseball. Maybe you can make an argument for Chris Sale, but different argument for a different time. $14,400 is an expensive price tag, but he's a monster. He's one of three huge favorites today, minus 220 depending on where you look. It's like a 6.5 run total. The Cubs struck out a ton against Madison Bumgarner, a ton against Chris Sale. As you're looking at it, I mean, you got Chris Sale had 15 Ks against these guys. Madison Bumgarner had 12 Ks. I mean, that was only 6 and 7 innings for those two guys. Obviously, Kershaw capable of just equaling that, if not more. So you know the strikeout floor is there. If he can keep the ball in the yard, I mean, he's going to be a tough fit at times, but he's an incredible option tonight.
Yeah, and I really love him in GPPs tonight because that price tag is so prohibitive for getting some of these big bats and the big totals at 14-4 with other aces on the hill. I think you're going to see people kind of veer away from him a bit, and I think if you use him, you're going to get lower ownership than you typically get with Kershaw, which is, I mean, that's ideal for GPPs, but definitely playing cash games too. If you use the right SP2 and find the right punts, obviously it's going to be key that some of these guys are in lineups, but he is able to be used. But as far as cash games go, I think I'm willing to spin down to Max Scherzer against the lowly Marlins. One of three minus 200 favorites or better tonight, which I don't recall the last time we had a night like this with three just gigantic betting favorites, but Scherzer gets a bad Marlins lineup. He's almost $2,000 cheaper than Kershaw. I think he's going to be slightly more popular in cash games because of that big $1,900 savings. Also really like Francisco Liriano, who is the third pitcher with the big monster betting money line favorite line. Gets the Rockies, who are the worst offense in baseball against left-handed pitching, according to WRC+, and it's actually by a fairly wide margin, too. The one concern with Liriano, and it's always a concern with Liriano, is he can lose the strike zone at times. Makes it a little bit of an uncomfortable situation rostering him in cash games, but tonight he's a big betting favorite. He has done better with his control this year than in years past. Huge strikeout upside. The Rockies swing and miss a ton against left-handed pitching. Love him in GPPs, love him in cash games. Do think he's probably going to be the highest owned GPP arm just because he's so much cheaper than all of the other big betting favorites and all the other high upside pitchers. He's only $10,000, so do be aware that his ownership is probably going to be fairly high in GPPs. But with so many aces, fairly high is a relative statement. Compared to other nights, I don't think it's going to be. There's no slam dunk pitcher that you expect to have crazy high ownership. So do like Liriano, but there's a couple cheap names, and one of them I'll let you tout your favorite team's pitcher, because I'm on board with him too, but I got to let you gloat about one of the bright spots on the Reds this year.
Yeah, one of the very few bright spots. Raisel Iglesias, $7,800 tonight. I mean, coming off of, you expect his ownership to probably be a little bit higher than you would like it to be, because he is coming off a 13 strikeout performance, but I mean, his peripheral numbers have been great. I mean, 25.3% strikeout rate, 3.43 xFIP, 0.86 home runs per nine. He's got a swinging strike rate of 11.2%, which is up near the elite guys. I mean, higher than Matt Harvey, actually. Obviously, he hasn't pitched nearly as many innings, but facing a Milwaukee team that was depleted at the trade deadline there. A lot of their big bats gone. Once you get past Ryan Braun and Adam Lind in this lineup, I mean, there's really not anything to worry about here. And the best thing about Iglesias is he's allowed 3 hits in each of his last 4 starts, so 12 total hits over his last 26 innings. So, I mean, this is a guy that's really locked in. He's cheap. I imagine he will be a very popular mid-range play. And I love him. And I like pairing him with Ian Kennedy. That's not much more expensive there at $9,000. Kennedy's another guy that's been pitching really well. Over his last 3 starts, just 2 earned runs. No surprise that those 2 earned runs were both solo home runs, because that's what he does. But one of those starts at Colorado, one of them versus St. Louis. So, I mean, this is a guy that's really locked in. Obviously, Philadelphia have been hitting the ball well, but this is still a young team with essentially a AAA lineup. So, I think Ian Kennedy's one of those guys that may fly under the radar. People will be afraid to target him against Philly, but this is still not a very good offense.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. One more name that I'll add in that mid-range, since we rattled off a number of pricey options, and you're going to have to find some SP2s. Obviously, Iglesias is our favorite SP2 at this point, but I also like small betting favorite Edinson Volquez against the Rays. Rays have been a bad offense against right-handed pitching this year. Volquez is wildly inconsistent. I mean, just look at his 10-game log, and you can see he's alternated good and bad starts, allowing six earned runs in his last start, just 1 earned run in the start before that, 5 in the start before that, and 1 in the start before that. So he's been alternating good and bad starts, but overall on the year, respectable FIP and XFIP numbers, okay strikeout rate, but more or less this is about the fact that the Rays have not hit right-handed pitching well this year. So if you're looking for a guy who isn't going to light the world on fire but is capable of turning in a quality start and picking up a W, Volquez certainly fits that bill.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And then another guy you can look at, Aaron Nola against San Diego. They've been struggling. He's coming off the best performance of his career so far. Obviously, it was at Miami, so take it for what you will. But 0 earned runs over 8 innings, just 2 walks and 3 hits. This is not quite a Miami Marlins offense, but a pretty light-hitting San Diego team, especially if Matt Kemp ends up sitting out once again.
Yeah, and I mean, the Padres, that offense, for all the work that they did to revamp it, just has not put up numbers this year. So don't mind him at all.
All right, moving on here to catcher. If we're looking, we'll go ahead and look at the mid-range here first. Yan Gomes, $2,900, probably my favorite option around that price tag. You do have John Jaso with that same price tag, but he also gets Edinson Volquez, who has actually been very good against left-handed batters. That's not going to scare me off of Jaso because of that price tag is so cheap, especially if he's batting cleanup. I love that because he gets the opportunity for more RBIs, of course. But outside of that, I think my top option is still going to be Travis d'Arnaud against Henry Owens. He's the most expensive option, but he should be because he has been absolutely crushing the ball recently. Look at his last 5 games, all 5 of them with at least 14 points and 3 of them with home runs. He's got 4 doubles in that span, too. I mean, the guy is just absolutely locked in at the plate.
Yeah, and because he's the most expensive option at catcher, you would think that would depress his ownership just a little bit in GPP, so that's always a plus as well. I like Brian McCann a bit at $4,000. More of a GPP play than a cash games play. You don't like him away from Yankee Stadium, but Williams Perez has just been dreadful against left-handed batters, and the Yankees just have one after the other to throw at him tonight. Just going to put McCann in a favorable situation, probably with some runners on tonight. And as a left-handed batter, he's going to benefit from that himself. The other name that I like is a cheap name. Of course, he's got to be in the lineup, but $2,200 Jesus Montero looks to be carving out a niche as the left-hand or the right-handed batting side of platoon at first base with Logan Morrison facing lefties. Hasn't really done very well against lefties this year, but has hit them well at the big league level in his career and has raked against them in the minors. So I do have faith in Montero. I also have faith in John Danks just being terrible against right-handed batters because, well, that's basically what John Danks does. So at $2,200, he's a nice punt if you're looking to pay up a pitcher and grab some of these big bats elsewhere. Don't love the options at catcher tonight, so punting is certainly in play.
Certainly, I'm with you there. I'll be saving money outside of d'Arnaud, probably in tournaments with him either way. First base options, Edwin Encarnacion probably going to be your chalk play tonight at $5,300, as he should be against the lefty at home. And Boyd, Toronto has a team total of about 37 runs tonight. Not actually 37, but highest on the board, as they always seem to have, especially at home against the lefty. I still like Miguel Cabrera a ton against R.A. Dickey at Toronto. $5,500 is an expensive price tag, but if you're looking for a swerve off of Encarnacion, I think maybe going with one of the best hitters that our generation has seen might not be a bad opportunity for you to get him at some low ownership tonight.
You're really going out on a limb there, but I'm in agreement. And we know if Dickey's knuckleball just isn't dancing, Miguel Cabrera is probably your top candidate to just absolutely rip the cover off of the baseball, literally,
and make it look effortless too.
With his bat, exactly. A couple other names that I like at first base tonight. I like Chris Davis in GPPs against Cole Hammels. He's actually struck out at almost 10% less against left-handed pitching this year than against right-handed pitching. Big ISO. He's at Texas. The ball seems to just be flying in Texas in this hot weather. So do like Chris Davis, even though Hammels is a very good left-handed pitcher. Also like Adam Lind against Iglesias. I think Iglesias is going to be popular tonight, which should drop Lind's ownership a bit. And Lind is one of the few left-handed batters that the Brewers do have that does strike some fear into those using Iglesias, but the rest of that lineup looks pretty bad. So that does hurt Lind a bit, but it is at Miller Park. So again, another check in the pros column for him. Like Mark Trumbo at $3,800, quietly, he's distancing himself from a really slow start with the Mariners. He's having a strong second half, and he's hit lefties all year. So nothing new for him. He's done it throughout his career. It's what Trumbo does. I mean, the guy didn't get the nickname Trumbombs for nothing, and he can really unload on left-handed pitching. Victor Martinez, $3,500, another cheap piece of R.A. Dickey at the Rogers Center. Dickey's been pretty good at home this year, but it is still the Rogers Center, and this is still a very explosive Tigers offense when they are clicking on all cylinders. And hitting sandwiched between Miguel Cabrera and the other Martinez, JD, is a pretty good spot to be in a lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'll throw out my GPP guy, assuming he's in the lineup, Big Papi, David Ortiz, $3,600 against Matt Harvey. Harvey, as we know, very good pitcher, but does struggle with left-handed batters, especially power lefties. 14 homers already allowed in the season, so I think he's a good option. And then I really wasn't trying to pick on Salazar, but I'll pick on Trevor Bauer, so I'll throw Albert Pujols in there as an option for you at first base at $3,800 as well.
Yeah, and you got to love that reduced price for any of the Angels hitters as a result of the initial matchup of facing Danny Salazar, but with him getting scratched due to illness, these guys still keep those cheap price tags, but they get to face a far less talented pitcher in Trevor Bauer.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on over here to second base, we've got a couple options here, of course, as we always do. Jason Kipnis, a good GPP option. Obviously not nearly the hitter lefty-lefty as he is against righties, but the way as good of a hitter as he is overall, I still like him against Heaney, who's really struggling right now. Brian Dozier against a good lefty and Scott Kazmir, but certainly a guy that you're considering either way. And then a guy I think is a great tournament option. We were talking about it for the show there a little bit. Robinson Cano against John Danks. It's another lefty-lefty matchup, but Cano's still a decent hitter against lefties, and John Danks, I mean, when he implodes, the implosion affects every batter in the lineup.
Yeah, and Cano finds himself in a good lineup spot heading in front of some lefty mashers, namely Nelson Cruz. So anytime you can hit in front of that guy, if you get on base, the odds of you coming around to score are pretty good. Better than average, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Some other names to second base that I like, Anthony Rendon. You can use him at third base as well. He's riding a modest, I believe it's a 5-game hitting streak. A few multi-hit efforts in there. And he's hit lefties pretty well all year, has 111 WRC plus against them. So even in an injury-plagued down year, he's still hitting left-handed pitching pretty well. A guy that I like better at shortstop than second base, but Wilmer Flores gets the nod against Henry Owens. He's crushing left-handed pitching this year, and that basically lines up with what he did in the minors. So if you're worried about his slow start in the big leagues against lefties, you can go ahead and give him a pass on that. He's only 24 years old, and he raked against them in the minors, so I do feel that like his numbers this year against lefties are legit. The guy that's kind of flying below the radar, and I don't know as though he'll be in the lineup. He is listed as day-to-day, but if Rougned Odor is back after losing a fingernail in Tuesday's contest, I like him a lot against Kevin Gausman at home. All Odor's done is tear the cover off the baseball since his recall from AAA. The guy's locked in. He's just been annihilating baseballs, and he hides down at the bottom of that Rangers lineup. So, again, a guy that I expect to be super low owned and make for a really good GPP play. And one last name I'll throw out there for cash games mostly, but he is also viable in GPPs. $2,900 Chase Utley hitting second for the Dodgers of late, and gets a righty today. Jason Hammel's been very good this year, but Utley at $2,900 feels like a steal given his lineup spot in a potent Dodgers offense. It's handled right-handed pitching quite well this year.
Yeah, I like that. And then I'll throw out Colton Wong at $3,200. And your nice cheap play, $3,000 Stephen Drew. Cheap guy with power, hits at the bottom of the lineup. He does nothing but hit for power. He doesn't make a lot of contact. He's not a very good hitter, but Williams Perez is terrible against lefties. So if you're looking for a guy that's going to be about 1 to 2% owned, that's got some upside, that's the guy I'm looking at second base.
I agree.
Third base options, we'll throw Mickey back out there as well. Ryan Zimmerman, another guy with first base, third base eligibility. But one of my favorite plays here, despite the fact that Erasmo Ramirez has actually been very good against lefties, this guy, arguably the hottest hitter in baseball right now, Mike Moustakas, $4,100. I mean, it's a matchup that on paper doesn't look particularly enticing, but A lot of the matchups that he's had recently didn't look particularly enticing. He's just mashing the ball. So I love Mike Moustakas tonight.
Price point is really good at 4,100 too, especially on a night where, as we keep mentioning, there's aces, there's big bats, there's high totals. So finding any salary relief without sacrificing either recent performance or just hitting in general is nice. And 4,100 is a good price point for Moustakas. I mean, it's an obvious play, but I'll say it. Josh Donaldson at 5,700 is an awesome GPP play. That price tag is going to hurt his GPP ownership, but he's absolutely killing the baseball this year, killing it against all pitchers, but especially so against lefties, and especially so at the Rogers Center. And Matt Boyd, sorry, kid. I mean, I don't like your odds against this lineup. I don't like your odds against Josh Donaldson. So I'm going to pay up on some of my GPP rosters for Donaldson because he's got, double home run upside, just game-changing upside. And I do think that price tag being so prohibitive for rostering an ace with is beneficial in GPPs. Looking at some other more affordable options, though, if David Wright's in the lineup, the guy kills left-handed pitching. Henry Owens is a rookie. You expect David Wright to take him to school, basically. Trevor Plouffe makes for an interesting GPP play because his teammate Miguel Sano getting all the headlines, and rightfully so, at the hot corner. But at $3,900, Plouffe has hit left-handed pitching very well in his career and in recent years. Anthony Rendon will throw his name back out there again at third base. I think I like him a little bit better at third base than second base, but either way, he looks like a strong play. And name that just, I don't know, he's finally getting some due, but it still feels like he flies under the radar. Justin Turner, it's a righty-righty matchup, but he hits in the heart of that Dodgers order. He hits right-handed pitching very well, and over the last calendar year, he's been phenomenal. So this isn't a small sample size fluke at this point. He's really turned into a very good baseball player.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that the Dodgers, like you mentioned earlier, probably go a little bit under-owned tonight. And they probably shouldn't. So I like that call a lot. Shortstop options, it's Troy Tulowitzki. If you can get him, 4,300, you got to love him in his spot tonight. In a phenomenal spot. Francisco Lindor, another guy who's been very good recently, switch hitter. Gets Andrew Heaney today. Stole 3 bases in his last game. 4 multi-hit games in his last 5. A couple homers in that span, too, there. So he's really turned into an all-around player right there where people may not be wanting to pay up for him. But I think my favorite guy still, if it's not Tulowitzki, it's going to be Wilmer Flores against Henry Owens. Yep. Flores has been just mashing left-handed pitching recently. Got the day off yesterday. Should be back ready to go and ready to continue that Mets offensive barrage tonight.
Yeah, and there's only a few more names that I'll add to the list. Shortstop, as usual, not the most exciting or deep position. But I will add Asdrubal Cabrera to the mix. He's been a man on fire in the second half of the season, really raking. Volquez has struggled or has been good against left-handed pitching this year, but his track record suggests that he's probably not this good against left-handed batters. So I do like Asdrubal Cabrera a bit, and then I'll reassert your stance on Stephen Drew, who's also third base or shortstop eligible here for $3,000, and the other name that has to be mentioned after his last 2-day 3 home run barrage, Eduardo Escobar. The guy's got 3 straight multi-hit efforts and 3 home runs in the last 2 days. Obviously, Scott Kazmir, not the ideal lefty to face, but with the way he's hitting the ball, if you do believe in hot streaks, Escobar is certainly qualifying as a hot hitter.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'll throw out the cheap guy I always throw out that I love, especially when you bat second, Marwin Gonzalez, nice and cheap down there. And then another guy's been hitting, if you're not playing Ian Kennedy tonight, Andres Blanco. He hasn't shown a lot of upside, but he's been a very consistent play there. So $2,400, if he has a nice lineup spot, we bat at fifth yesterday. So if he's in there, you can get him in there as a nice cheap cash game filler with, you don't really need much upside. If it gets you that 6 to 9 points there, you're thrilled. Yeah,
and that transitions nicely to the outfield. I'll throw out the obvious play. Everybody's favorite super chalky, cheap platoon player, $2,200 Ryan Rayburn. Usually we start at the top with the big bats, but we'll go ahead and get him out of the way. I'll throw another value play out there while we're at it. Andre Ethier against Jason Hammel at $2,800. He's crushed right-handed pitching this year. He's crushed right-handed pitching throughout his career. It just seems to be on a bigger stage this year and doing so at a better rate. Also hitting in a good spot in the Dodgers lineup. So I do like Ethier at $2,800. Gregory Polanco at 3,500 looks like one of the best plays tonight, I believe. Gets Jonathan Gray, rookie pitcher, who has been quite giving to left-handed batters in his rookie season. Polanco, really, the light bulb seems to have gone on in the second half of the season. He's crushing the ball. He's leading off for a team with a 4.5 run over-under total tonight, so you really got to like that. Then we'll go right up to the top. I mean, you can't not mention Nelson Cruz against a really bad left-handed pitcher. He gets John Danks tonight at the Cell. Gotta love the ballpark factor shift from Safeco to U.S. Cellular Field. And then Jose Bautista against Matt Boyd. As I noted, I don't like the rookie's chances against the Blue Jays. They have a 5-run over-under total, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them double that total tonight. So Jose Bautista in play, and plenty of other options. Who else are you looking at in the outfield?
I'm looking at Franklin Gutierrez at $3,800 against a lefty. Again, a bad lefty. The guy's just murdered left-handed pitching. Michael Kadire, who I mentioned at first base, I think is an awesome value at $3,200. Should be back in the lineup tonight. JD Martinez, of course, with that tremendous park shift to Rogers Center. I think he's in a great spot. It's really hard to look past a guy like Yoenis Cespedes, too. Hasn't hit left-handed pitching as well as he's hit righties, but, I mean, he has hit everything you've thrown near him recently. Home runs in 3 of his last 4 games, 6 home runs over his last 8. I mean, that's including that 3 home run explosion at Coors Field, but still, the guy's been killing the ball. 2 guys I really like, any of the lefties for the Yankees. Again, Brett Gardner's 46 and Jacoby Ellsbury at 45. If Ellsbury plays today, he did sit out Wednesday. They had the day off yesterday, but if he plays and is in the lineup tonight, $4,500, I think he's going to be a great low-owned type of guy that's in a great spot because he does have that little day-to-day tag next to him. People see that and they kind of move on. I think for that reason he's going to have way lower ownership than he should. And then, of course, Mike Trout is down to $4,300. Has not been Mike Trout recently, but we know what this man is capable of, and we know what Trevor Bauer is capable of when he's, I don't know, not feeling well. Not his breaking balls aren't breaking when he's not finding the zone. He tends to leave too many balls hanging up in the zone, and Mike Trout doesn't miss very many of those.
No, he doesn't. One more name that I will throw out there that I don't want to overlook is $3,400 Jason Worth. He has a track record of excellence against lefties. It's been a really struggle. It's been a struggle for him this year, but he went deep last night, and you certainly like to see that. If he's rounding into form now, you got to like a price tag of just $3,400 against a below-average left-handed pitcher in Adam Connolly.
Yep, and I'll throw out Chris Colabello at $4,000 also because you want to get yourself some Blue Jays exposure wherever you can here. And that is going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.